It's a very, very good evening. My name is Leanne Manus, and welcome from me and my colleagues to our special election show, aiming to help you make your choice on the 3rd of next month in PWEC. Can you believe? 3 weeks to go.
Unbelievable. Time flies, Leanne.
It does. It really,
and I wish
really
it's just
does.
tomorrow.
I know, me too, I must say. But we've got too much to get through before tomorrow, so let's get
I'm
going.
quite excited about today's show. Hey, it's so jam-packed.
It is. It's an exciting one. All right.
Just tune in.
So today what we're going to be doing is taking a look at electricity. Well, you can watch us on SABC 2 and channel 404. That's where we are, coming to you every half an hour. So today is electricity, and we want to know from you how you feel on the increasing electricity rates. You can send us your opinion on Twitter, that hashtag SABC elections. The man over there in the hot seat monitoring all of them. Nice to see you, Tabisa.
Good evening, guys. And I must say the hot seat won't be that hot because it's not for me tonight. I know Leanne was swapping over the hot seat down that way. But in fact, what is hot is the topic we're speaking about, and as far as what people at home view or think about electricity, and it's very, very, well, some of the responses so far. I'm going to be reading them a bit later, and I kid you not, it's going to be a heated one indeed. Good evening, I'm Tabisa Sitola. Most of us take electricity for granted, but for millions, this remains a dream. 3.4 million households will still do not have any power. Mangoba Mkhunu looks at the country's electricity status 22 years after democracy.
Life in an informal settlement, communal taps, poor sanitation, and no electricity. When night falls, flickering candles, the only source of light for most. Tsidimoloye and her family have lived here in Zandspruit for the past 21 years.
Ever since we've lived here in Zandspruit, we have never had electricity. We live in the dark. We use paraffin to cook, but when we don't have it, we go and fetch wood.
Desperate, many have resorted to this. This is a common sight in informal settlements in Gauteng, sourcing power from poles and municipal boxes. And it's a war the power utility seems to be losing. As soon as they are dismantled, residents simply just reconnect.
We as a company lose on average about 2 billion rand a year because of illegal connections, but also included in the issues of cable theft.
But residents remain defiant.
They know it's dangerous. They need electricity. And you can't stop the people who say don't collect the electricity, don't collect this thing legally. They know everything's legally, but they need electricity.
Since they don't want to give us electricity, we have to use our own means to connect.
But illegal connections in Gauteng could soon be a thing of the past. Government has promised to electrify over 118 formal settlements in the province over the next 5 years. It's envisaged that the whole of South Africa will be connected by 2025. Tembelihle was a step ahead. After several violent service delivery protests, it's finally connected.
In the next 5 years, every citizen of Johannesburg will have electricity. Authorized by government and connected by government instead of connecting ourselves.
The National Treasury has allocated 17.6 billion rand for the next 3 years. So meaning between now and 2019, we are going to connect just over 800,000 households.
But the more users, the bigger the burden on Eskom. In 2008 and 2014, load shedding became the norm.
It had a very big impact on growth. Our National Treasury worked out that the per kilowatt loss in GDP was between 9 Rand and 15 Rand a kilowatt hour. And if you think about it, that we lost gigawatts of electricity over the last decade, then certainly we're looking at hundreds of billions of Rand that the South African economy lost.
After lengthy periods of sporadic outages, relief, a stable grid for the past 10 months.
One of the first things that we did was to bring online Unit 6 of Medupi Power Station. It has been consistently producing about 800 megawatts into the national grid. We've also brought online 4 units of the Ingula Power Station in Ladysmith. The other thing that we did was to do as much maintenance as possible.
But despite the utilities' efforts to keep the lights on, there are still some challenges. It's owed billions by municipalities, and its prepaid meter system has been met with fierce resistance in townships. In Soweto, residents took to the streets.
As a community, we feel that the meter system is very expensive in a sense that if you don't have money to buy that electricity, it means that you're staying without electricity.
Still, far more fortunate than millions in informal settlements who are still waiting and hoping that the promised electrification is not just an election ploy. Mangoba Mchunu, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Thank you indeed there, Mangobo. Kulu Pasiwe, spokesperson of Eskom, speaks to Leanne Manners after the break. But before we go there, let's take a quick look at some of the tweets, Leanne. As we talk, at the top of the show, I mentioned that the tweets and social media was heating up, particularly with this debate. I'll take one from Karima Ferris. She says, she feels cheated of what we should really pay. Supplier cannot supply yet, still with the same suppliers. So, I mean, this is one we hear almost all the time, saying, we're paying too much, but we're not getting our worth. I mean,
there's always that standard joke. I mean, electricity, it's one of those services. We pay the most for the service that we actually never receive. It's unbelievable. But you get stuck between a rock and a hard place. That if you don't pay the bills, Eskom hasn't got the money to build the infrastructure to fix the electricity. But at the end of the day, the tariffs keep on increasing, and we get blackouts all over. So it is just one of the most frustrating issues. And one of, guys, I have to tell you, the biggest issues leading into these elections. If you think about what people at home are thinking about, they're thinking of these basic services, like who's going to keep my lights on? And that's one of the big ones in this election. It really is.
Definitely.
All right. So, as Tabisa said, after the break, we're going to be joined by Eskom. We've got the person in studio with us who's going to be talking to us. Kulu Pasiwe, he, of course, is Eskom's spokesperson, so stay tuned for that.
And also address one of the thorny issues, that of izinyoka-nyoka. More on that after the break.
Unlock a whole new world of African hospitality. Experience world-class luxury, unparalleled adventure, royal banquets, wild safari, and intimate live music performances. Book your 3-day escape today. Brought to you by ESP Africa, producers of the award-winning Cape Town International Jazz Festival. The Royal Escape Experience.
All right, welcome back. You're watching this very special election show in the run-up to the elections on the 3rd of August. So we're focusing on the issue of electricity and that of prepaid meters to areas where electricity is stolen. We're now talking to Eskom, and we've got the spokesperson with us in studio, Kulu Pasiwe. Of course, we're going to talk to Kulu about a lot of other issues as well. Good to have you. Welcome to the program. All right, so, I mean, I know that we've got, you're hoping, I read a headline, in fact, saying that Eskom is holding thumbs, that the new prepaid electricity meters are going to change the way people think and feel about meters. How is it going to be different?
Well, the biggest issue that we have to deal with are perceptions. In many areas, especially in Soweto, people have been told by others that prepaid meters are running much faster than the conventional meters. So when we started in 2007, we had to take a few of those meters together with some of the community leaders and go to the Bureau of Standards in Pretoria so that they can test them and have the evidence. So it was only after this, we had taken these meters to the SABC that people began to understand that there was nothing untoward with these meters. But even in places like Orlando West, when we were trying to install them earlier this year, there was some resistance and people beginning to feel that these meters were not doing what they were supposed to be doing. So it's one of those ongoing battles that we have to do. But thanks to the city of Johannesburg and our people on the ground who are working there, we have been having community meetings where we were able to explain how these meters work, and they're beginning to understand now.
Tell me, is it true that Eskom entered into a deal that the company is prepared to write off debt if debtors accept this prepaid meter system?
The issue of the debt, actually, we are not writing off any debt, not in Soweto, not anywhere in the country. What we are willing to do is to write off the interest that we charge on the debt. For example, if you owe Eskom, say, 10,000 rand, and about 8,000 rand of that is the debt itself, and maybe say 2,000 is the interest. We are willing to waiver the interest, but we have to enter into an agreement with you as a customer as to how you're going to pay the balance, which is the 8,000.
What about the issue of Izinyoka? I mean, people stealing electricity, illegal connections. It has a lot of ramifications. I mean, we see a lot of people losing their lives, especially children. We also see what happens to our country. When the power shortages go down, areas also, of course, don't have power because it's being stolen. I mean, how are you dealing with this?
You know, Leanne, for things like cable theft and illegal connections, we are able to move swiftly to repair those things that are damaged. But for people who are, for example, if you are at a hospital, you are supposed to undergo an operation, and then all of a sudden there are no lights, there's no electricity. Those things you can't quantify, you can't replace them, which is why we are saying, for us, obviously, the issues of cable theft are a big problem, but they also go beyond Eskom and municipalities, where people lose their lives because you can't operate them, or for things like inconvenience. You can't quantify the inconvenience that you have to sit in traffic for 1 hour or so. So from our side, what we are saying is that we are working together with communities or appealing to communities to help us to identify people who are connecting others illegally or people who are stealing cables so that we can nab them. We are working together with the Hawks and the South African police in general to make sure that we clamp down on these people.
The reality is that when you look at people budgeting for certain things, and let's just pay attention to Soweto. I know a study was done, and a lot of people say that 80% of residents within Soweto don't even budget for paying electricity. Where does this culture come from? I mean, how did we land up in a situation like this?
Leanne, maybe to contextualize it, in 1998, government, through the Department of Energy, issued what they called the white paper, energy white paper. In that white paper, somewhere within that document, they mentioned specifically the issues of non-payment and the culture of non-payment in general. So the government, during that time, 1998, they were saying that they were going to help Eskom and municipalities to spread the message that people now have to start paying. Because you will remember that before 1994, there was, I would say, political parties, including the ruling party, where they were encouraging people to sort of bring the system down, the government at the time down. And because one of the things that was being pushed was that people should not pay for the services. And I think it started there. Unfortunately, some people still believe that they shouldn't pay because it became part of their, I would say, the norm now. But we still have a long way to go as Eskom, municipalities and government as a whole to try to educate our people again to change their positions.
Absolutely. It's a way of thinking. We all have to pay for our services. We certainly do. But we have to pay for a service we get. No more blackouts,
well,
even though they're happening.
Well, from our side, we have been doing a lot of maintenance on the power system. For 11 months now in a row, we have not had load shedding. Yes, in some areas we have had power outages, but that is not load shedding. Most of these outages are actually caused by people who are stealing cables or overloading substations. All
right, okay. I need to bring you back into the studio to talk a little bit more about possible tariff hikes, because I'm seeing that Eskom may once again be asking NERSA for another possible tariff increase for you and I, so which means we're going to be spending more on our electricity. But I'll have to leave it there. Kulupasiwe from Eskom, thank you for talking to us here on the program. Guys, imagine another electricity tariff increase. Not saying it is happening, but that's what Eskom are looking for. Not good news.
Leanne, I kid you not. I'll tell you what some people are saying, though, as far as social media is concerned. We got one here from Madonza says, I'm thinking of going back to my village in the Eastern Cape, where I rely more on firewood than electricity. So,
and understandably so, hey.
Look,
understandably so.
My fireplace is too small to have firewood. Besides, it's outside the house. I don't think it will help much.
All right, South Africa, you have spoken, and we'll definitely read all of your tweets when we come back.
We're heading to a future of cars that will drive themselves, and a place where robots will be doing some of our chores. But the challenge in Africa is to make sure that everyone is part of this new world.
To be behind with technology, it is a challenge for us as offenders.
There are many initiatives to ensure that Africans are truly connected.
We're now giving more access and internet to now the end users.
On Network, we have information on Africa's technology landscape, possibilities for the future, and some great African innovations. That's Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
The conversation continues here and on Twitter. Hashtag SABC elections. Please get hold of us. We're still talking electricity. And earlier, just before the break, we spoke to Eskom. But now, let's talk to Lucas Takaza. He is from Sanco. That's the South African National Civic Organization. Good to have you. Thank you very much for joining us here in studio.
Nice to have you too.
Now, tell me, as a civic organization, do you encourage residents to pay for electricity?
Remember, Leanne, that it's something that we propagated when we wanted to deal with apartheid. And we said, in the first instance, we said the equal tariff for everybody. And then we said later, then let's do away with the payment of tariffs.
Yeah.
But now that we have a democratic government, we are propagating that our communities should definitely pay for the services they get.
Okay, so you're not against prepaid meters?
We can't be against prepaid meters, Leanne, because remember that prepaid meters encourages people to pay even before they actually use that service. And remember that the rural communities that we service, that are our custodians, our constituency, are mostly connected through prepaid system in any way. So if we're against it, we would say that the rollout of that Eskom is doing in those rural areas should not do it. And we are saying all people of South Africa must have access to electricity through the prepaid meter system, because that's a better way now to go.
No, but the people of Soweto and the residents of Soweto are rejecting this prepaid meter system. They don't want it. They don't want the system. They're refusing to pay. Obviously feeling that they don't want to pay, they do not want to pay for electricity. That obviously is the sense that there is amongst people. How do you encourage the residents and say, you have to pay for the service, it's just the way things work?
Look, we, as a civic movement, we always encourage civic education, because people got used to this non-payment system or method of or way of doing things, and therefore have been they think that it's a free-for-all. And we are saying as a civic movement, government must also put money in civic education to make sure that our people do understand that when you get a service, you have to pay for the service that you get. When you don't get a service, there's nothing to pay for. But now that there's a rollout of Eskom, people of Soweto, for instance, you will find that within those communities in Soweto, some communities do want a prepaid system, some don't want prepaid system. But for others, it's because prepaid system will actually catch them to make sure that they pay for the services and will move away from Izinyoka. And I think that's the way to go. As Sanco, we're encouraging that people must pay for the services they get, so that other people that are not necessarily getting the service can also get that service, so that it can be rolled out to everybody, because we want 100% coverage electricity, even in those rural areas, which somebody was talking about on Twitter. But I'm from rural areas in the Eastern Cape. I know there is electricity there in most rural of them all, in Nyandeni, in Lebode.
Getting back to Izinyoka, because that's a big issue and we haven't touched on that as well. People are losing their lives. It's costing the country millions with all these illegal connections. And again, I can imagine it's a sense of, well, why must I pay? I'm getting the electricity for free anyway through illegal means. Again, as a civic organization, how do you educate people about the dangers of this and what it's doing to South Africa?
Look, you know, well, if they say if you think that educating people is ignorance, try not educating them, and then you'll pay more. Because putting money aside, and we encourage government to do this, we encourage ESCOM to do this, all service providers to do this, that the services they render to our communities, they must pay more, they must give more to education so that people can be educated. What is the spin-off of all those things that the services that they are getting from those service providers?
Yeah. It's also a sense, and speaking to some people feeling, well, if my neighbor's not going to pay, why must I pay? And I just can get away with it because it's not a problem. But I'm getting a sense that you cannot get away with this anymore. You cannot get away with it any longer.
Remember, Leanne, that there's, you know, in our communities, this entitlement is growing every day. But within this entitlement, there's also the issue of people piggybacking on this entitlement and actually abusing the system and making sure that they actually, some of them even sell electricity to say, no, you can tap from me on many houses.
Yeah.
And this is in Izinyoka. Sometimes you will think that they are all people who are just stealing electricity, but others are paying for it to whoever is providing it to say, no, get it from me here, we'll just pay a little bit of money. And even the one that is actually selling it is actually stealing it.
Yeah. Let's leave it there for this evening. Lucas Takaza, he is from Sanco, the South African National Civic Organization, talking about the issue of electricity, illegal connections, and those issues of prepaid meters that particularly residents in Soweto are very much so against. But we've got to get out of the culture of the fact that you do not want to pay for electricity, and that's what we're talking about. All right, I'm going to go over to the guys now. I know they're monitoring both Twitter and they've got something else for us. Guys, what have you got there?
Well, Leanne, I know that Sim has been scribbling away. Sim, a couple of tweets that I see you looking into?
Yeah, and, you know, Karima, no, actually, it's Mfundisi GP says all of us will end up being Izinyoka. The government is strangling us bit by bit, and Arab Spring will come here soon. And it's very interesting because I've been having a conversation with some lady in Soweto who says that for the past 15 years, she's been using electricity powered by such Izinyoka. And just as Mr. Lucas Kagaza from Sanco said, government must inject funds towards civic education to sensitize people about the dangers of such Izinyoka, because you know Izinyoka is a kota, Baba.
Yeah, you know how it happens. Anyway, we've come to that part of the show, our favorite parts of the show. They're running well. Let's move to our regular slot, that is. Of course, we take a look at your smaller parties and local government elections. This is what you have to see this time around.
Absolutely. And this time around is the Bushbug Reach Residents Association.
Ours is to ensure that people get services because, I mean, for the past 22 years, the people of Bushbug Reach are still underdeveloped. So we want to put a massive infrastructure project on development so that people can get jobs, people can get water, people can get roads. You see, people can create jobs on themselves. We want to bring a municipality that will bring services, municipality that will collect refuse, municipality that will then give people services that they deserve, unlike what we're seeing now with the current leadership. We are working hard, we are on the ground, we are doing door-to-doors, we are doing our mass media, we are telling people things that we're going to do, simple things. We are going to give them water, we are going to give them roads, unlike the government of the ANC who have reticulated all villages but there's no water. We are going to bring that water to the people of Bushbug Reach. We are going to build roads. We are going to build bridges for the people of Bushbug Reach. It's a commitment. It's not promises like the ANC government is doing.
Commitment. All right, there you have it. Now, it's time for another small party. This time, the Khoisan Revolutionary Party. They are from Uppington in the Northern Cape. Take a look.
First of all, we are not a racial party. We are inclusive party of all people of South Africa, but this time around, we as the Khoisan people of South Africa wants to govern ourselves. Nobody's talking on behalf of us. We are out of the constitution. There's no rights for us. There's no land for us. There's no culture. There's nothing of us. So we as leaders came together and we decided, after the court case of the Premier, which has recently been found guilty of hate speech and discrimination, that we will talk for ourselves in South Africa. Nobody's going to talk on behalf of the Khoisan San people anymore. We stood up for ourselves, and we want our land back.
It looks like we're calling this one a wrap as far as tonight's concerned. I was still looking at some of the Twitter, information there.
Some of the tweets.
I'll tell you one thing. One thing that came up to me, guys.
Yes.
This year's elections, not only South Africa is facing election in the UK, Theresa May, new
Prime Minister.
New Prime Minister of the UK.
As of tomorrow,
And then we've got, who's the Commander-in-Chief in charge for the US? Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
So there's
and
a lot
Donald
of women.
Trump, please do not.
I'm not sure about Donald Trump, but anyway.
Don't worry about us. Guys, do you know, I mean, I was doing a little bit of research with Eskom. Do you know that the two power plants that we're building here in South Africa, Medupi and Kusile, they are the most expensive coal-powered plants in the world.
Coal power?
Yeah.
Really? That's why I think we're fighting to go nuclear.
Which is crazy. Well, whichever way you look at it. We need to bring Eskom back in to talk about these things, because that, of course, is going to result in us paying even more, running over budget. So 20% is what they are wanting us to pay more.
Anyway, that's the show for tonight. Tomorrow, same time, same place.
We can also take the conversation further on Twitter. Remember, #SABC election.
Have a good evening, everybody. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Good night,